The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of receiving the transmission from the Outer Rim. Representative Kol Vash of the Hegemonic Alliance stood at the center of the circular chamber, his scaled features showing none of the concern that rippled through the assembled delegates. The human settlement on Kepler 442b has been pacified, he announced with clinical detachment. The colonists were warned repeatedly about their illegal mining operations in sovereign hegemonic space. They chose to ignore our lawful demands. Ambassador Elena Santos of Earth sat in the human delegation section, her face carved from stone as she watched the holographic replay of New Eden's final transmission. 200,000 souls, farmers, miners, scientists, children reduced to static and silence in the span of 6 hours. The colony was established under Article 12 of the Frontier Settlement Accord, she said, her voice cutting through the chamber's murmur. Kepler 442b was designated as unclaimed territory. Kol Vash's laugh was like grinding metal. Ancient paperwork, Ambassador. The Hegemonic Alliance's expansion into that sector predates your species' first steps into space. We merely reclaimed what was always ours. Representative Thyssera of the Crystalline Confederacy added her harmonic voice to the discussion. The hegemonic response was perhaps excessive, but territorial disputes are common. Surely compensation can be arranged. Elena stood slowly, her movement drawing every eye in the chamber. Compensation, she repeated, as if tasting a foreign word. For 200,000 lives. For families burned alive in their homes. For children who never had a chance to run. The price of expansion, Ambassador Kol Vash replied dismissively. Perhaps this will teach humanity to be more careful about where you plant your flags. Elena activated her personal communicator, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. Admiral Chen, this is Ambassador Santos. Authorization code Lima 77 Delta. Execute Directive Omega. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Authorization confirmed, Ambassador, came the reply. Directive Omega is now active. Estimated time to implementation, 72 hours. Kol Vash's scaled features twisted into a sneer. Empty threats, human. Your military is scattered across a dozen peacekeeping missions. You lack the resources to... He was interrupted by his aide, whose panicked whisper somehow carried in the suddenly quiet chamber. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting massive hyperspace distortions across 17 different vectors. The signatures are, they're all human. The chamber's main holographic display activated, showing a tactical map of local space. Red icons began appearing like a spreading infection, each one representing a human fleet emerging from hyperspace. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of vessels converging on a single point in space. This is impossible, breathed Representative Zixandra of the Silicon Collective. Humanity doesn't have this many warships. No one does. Elena remained standing, her expression unchanged. You're thinking in terms of warships, Representative. You should be thinking in terms of ships that can become warships. The tactical display updated as more data flowed in. Cargo haulers retrofitted with particle cannons. Civilian transports mounting shield generators and missile pods. Mining vessels whose industrial cutting lasers had been recalibrated for military applications. Colony ships carrying troops instead of settlers. Even luxury liners had been converted into hospital ships and command centers. Every human merchant captain in 6 sectors just received the same message. Elena continued, her voice growing harder with each word. Every civilian crew, every corporate fleet, every deep space explorer. The message was simple. New Eden has fallen. Come home. Admiral Vextar of the hegemonic military forces materialized as a hologram, his 4 arms gesticulating frantically. Kol Vash, the human fleet is. It's beyond anything in our databases. Our entire battle group is outnumbered 50 to 1. That's not a battle group you're facing, Admiral, Elena said quietly. That's the entire human diaspora. Every ship that could mount a weapon and make the journey. They're not coming for conquest. They're coming for justice. The tactical display showed the scope of humanity's response. Ships were converging from the inner colonies, the frontier worlds, the deep survey fleets, and places that weren't supposed to exist on any official charts. The fleet wasn't just large, it was impossibly diverse, representing every aspect of human spacefaring civilization, unified for a single purpose. Your people responded to the destruction of one colony by mobilizing. Everything? Representative Thissera's crystalline form chimed with what might have been all. The logistics alone should be impossible. You don't understand us, Elena replied. You never have. You see humans as scattered, disorganized, weak because we don't have a central military command. What you don't see is what happens when you threaten our family. Kolvash's composure was cracking. This is madness. The economic disruption alone, entire trade routes are being abandoned. Your commercial networks are collapsing. Trade routes can be rebuilt, Elena said. New Eden cannot. The holographic display updated again, showing something that made several delegates gasp. The human fleet had arranged itself into a perfect sphere around the hegemonic home system, every ship aimed inward. But they weren't attacking, they were simply waiting. The sphere formation encompasses the entire star system, observed Representative Coltam of the neutral zone. They could blockade every planet simultaneously. Admiral Chen's compliments to the hegemonic leadership, Elena announced. The human fleet will maintain position until New Eden's dead have been honored and reparations have been paid. Every day, the hegemonic alliance delays. The blockade tightens. Eventually, nothing gets in or out. You cannot maintain a fleet of this size indefinitely, Kolvash protested. The resource expenditure. We're not maintaining it, Elena interrupted. It's maintaining itself. Every merchant vessel that joins the blockade brings supplies. Every civilian ship brings volunteers. Every colony ship brings more people willing to stay as long as necessary. The display showed ships still arriving, the human fleet growing larger even as they watched. Cargo haulers converted into mobile factories. Hospital ships becoming refugee centers for any hegemonic civilians who chose to leave. Mobile habitats being constructed in real time as the blockade settled in for a siege that could last decades. This isn't just a military response, whispered Representative Thissera. It's an entire civilization choosing to stop everything else until justice is served. Admiral Vextar's image flickered with interference from the communication arrays being overwhelmed. The humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're offering safe passage to any hegemonic civilians who want to leave, free medical aid, even employment opportunities in human space. They're turning our own people against us. Elena finally allowed herself a cold smile. We're showing them what civilization looks like, Admiral. What it means to value life over territory. Representative Coltam leaned forward in his hovering chair. Ambassador Santos, surely there must be terms for resolution. The Galactic Council could mediate. The terms are simple, Elena said. Full recognition of responsibility for the destruction of New Eden. Memorial monuments on every hegemonic world. Reparations to the families of the dead. And territorial guarantees that no human colony will ever again be threatened by hegemonic expansion. And if we refuse? Kolvash demanded, though his bravado was wearing thin. Elena gestured to the tactical display, where the human fleet continued to grow. Then you discover what happens when you make an enemy of a species that would rather lose everything than let injustice stand. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled in. The humans hadn't just responded to aggression, they had demonstrated that an attack on any human settlement was an attack on all of humanity. The scattered, peaceful species that most powers had dismissed as inconsequential had revealed itself to be something far more dangerous, a civilization unified by shared values rather than central authority. "The vote will be held tomorrow," announced the council president, the ancient being whose species had seen empires rise and fall for millennia. All in favor of the human terms. As the session adjourned, Elena remained standing, watching the tactical display where thousands of human ships continued their patient vigil. They had come from every corner of human space, abandoning their lives and livelihoods for people they had never met, because those people were human, and that was enough. Kolvash approached her as the chamber emptied. "You realize this sets a dangerous precedent, Ambassador. Other species will see this and wonder what humanity might do to them." Elena turned to face him, her expression serene but implacable. "Good. Let them wonder. Let them remember New Eden. And let them decide if whatever they're considering is worth finding out what humanity looks like when we stop being peaceful." Outside, the stars were indeed blotted out, not by darkness, but by the lights of 10,000 ships that had come to speak for the dead and ensure that New Eden would never be forgotten.